I did have quite an experience on I believe it was zero point 0.3 milligrams per kilogram tolerance study day, where we were studying. I didn't know what we were studying. We were studying how people adapted to a high dose DMT level injected every hour. The first trip was quite surprising because I'm a Star Trek Next Generation fan, and I saw the city in the deep, deep distance that was dark green and all these lights flickering and clouds flowing over it. And this all started after tremendous geometric patterns that are incredibly rapid that you cannot describe to anybody. They're so fast. After those had slowed down, I saw this city in the deep distance. So I was sort of watching that, and then this ball of light goes right past me, right in front of me. Like, what was that? It didn't scare me, except it was so close. After that, I started looking around. It's like you're in this place, and you're going, why am I in this place? And then I noticed that there was this woman off to my right with a real long nose. She had green skin. She was turning this dial, and I realized she was turning the volume of lights up and down on the city in the distance. And I go, wow. And as soon as I looked at her, she noticed I was watching her. And she said, so what else do you want? I said, what else do you have? She paused a little bit and got up and came over to me and took sort of like a screwdriver and popped open the side of my head. And I felt all this pressure relief, and I go, boy, I feel a lot better. That's odd because I felt fine before. And after that, the trip started coming down. All these green swirling lines came back and slowed down. I slowly came back down. That was quite an interesting entity contact. She felt like she was an assistant, but I really wasn't quite sure why she was assisting me and what she was doing. The second trip occurred within an hour, and I felt like I was being drawn by invisible guidelines up this brown tube into the middle of a shopping center. So some of these things were really hard to figure out, but it was real. So my body was stiff as a board, getting pulled up, and I could see a grate up above that these two unisexual beings were trying to pull me through this grate. And they couldn't figure out how to do it because the top of the tube curved in and it was smaller than my body was. And they talked and talked and talked, and I never did see them. And they were talking to each other. They were not talking to me. And so that was quite a different experience. And finally, the experience just faded away. And then the lines came back and the experience ended. I was a little tired after that one. Regained my strength. I think Rick and I chatted a little bit. The third injection was quite different. I had the bright swirling lines, and then something happened that hadn't happened before. All of a sudden, it was like this Chinese patchwork quilt with all these bright colors, and they kept moving around, and then they got quite rapid. And when they got so rapid I couldn't quite watch what they were doing, I realized I was walking down a road, a dark gray road, swerving off to the right, and then I noticed about 5 or 6 people, men and women, walking beside me, and I go, wow, we're heading the same place. As we got up around this corner, the guy in the front produced this sort of sign, a placard, and said, how about this? Okay. And then the guy behind him stepped up and with another placard and said, how about this? Sure, I'll go for that. And then I didn't know what they were talking about, but I knew it was something beyond. And then the third guy stepped up and goes, and how about this? And then I could see this light at the top of the road. There was one real quick said, okay, do you want to? And I go, yes. And so I went right into this white light. As soon as I went into it, I lost any sense of being different, any sense of what I was doing, past, any sense of future. It was absolutely blissful and euphoric, and I just felt like it wasn't I. I was everything. I was the light. There was no sense of separation, no shadows, no differences, no past, no future. It was all present and white, gray light, white, yellow light. I don't have a clue how long I was there. I could have stayed there. Um, and like I say, there was no I. There was no difference whatsoever. Then I felt myself falling out of this light. And as I fell out of it, I could feel the light was like a glow, like the sun with flames coming out and lapping out. And I could already start to feel this tremendous separation. That was quite emotional. And I've tried to describe to myself what that feeling was like. It became very, very lonely. And then the light would lap out and grab me again. I go, I don't want to ever lose what that felt like. That happened a few times, and then I realized I was this about 4-year-old baby, real long body with a great big head and a yellow body with bright red veins and arteries on my side, with my left arm out, and the light kept lapping me, and the longing to go back was huge. The longing just to stay there was enormous. And then I started thinking about Rick. Man, I'm tripping. Rick is sitting here. How am I going to tell Rick about this? I went to the whole trip about Rick, and then I go, wait a minute, you're forgetting what it felt like already. That was just a few seconds ago, and you're forgetting what that oneness was like. And eventually I got far enough away from the light where the lapse of the light didn't touch me anymore, and I could just see it glowing and moving and morphing. So I slid down this dark gray ramp slowly and going, I may never remember what this was like again. Man, can I even share this intimate experience with Rick? I don't know. And as I got further and further away from light, I go, you'll find some words that will tell him sort of what you're doing. Actually, he already knows. And then the experience went back into brown lines this time, just swirling all about, and the experience ended. And reviewing the notes from that session, I go, wow, what I told them and what I experienced were very different. It took me about 6 months, I think, to write down that experience and finally share it with Rick. And I'm only guessing that he was surprised at what had really happened. And I thought I'd telepathically communicated with Rick everything that had happened, but obviously I still can't remember the intensity of the emotions. The fourth trip, again, 1 hour later, was totally different and very bizarre. I felt myself going up another shaft and looking up like I was in a parking structure outside UNM Hospital where we were doing the experiment. And there were these circles of cement around, and I saw these wire stick figures riding these blue stick figure bicycles, just riding around. They could see me, but they didn't really care, and they didn't communicate. And I kept waiting for something else to happen, and they just kept riding around, and eventually the experience faded, and I came out of it.